Every horror story has a day when everything collapses. For Playtime Co., that day had a scheduled time. August 8th, 1995, 11 in the morning. But what if the clock had run 1 minute late? What if the factory that was supposed to become a tomb had turned its lights back on the very next day, as if nothing had ever happened? Because what you are about to hear is not the end of Playtime Company. It is what would have happened if it had never died. And trust me, that ending is so much worse. In this video, we are going to rewrite the exact moment the hour of joy failed. We are going to follow the decade in which Playtime Co. became the largest toy empire on the planet. And we are going to uncover the hidden price behind every plastic smile this company ever sold to the world. If you love lore theories and alternate endings that mess with your head, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and tell me in the comments which game you want to see in the next What If. Now take a deep breath, because the factory is about to open its gates. The morning of August 8th began like any other at the Michigan factory. The air smelled of machine oil and industrial sugar, that sweet, sickly mixture that clung to the throat of anyone who had worked there too long. Conveyor belts ran, presses hammered in a steady rhythm, and hundreds of employees moved through the corridors with no idea that the end of everything was only minutes away. Down in the basement, in a lab sealed away from curious eyes, Harley Sawyer had not slept in 2 days. The doctor was hunched over a stack of tapes, headphones pressed to his ears, listening once again to the last sessions with Experiment 1006. Something was wrong, and he knew it. Not in the data. In the silences. The prototype had stopped taunting him. For years, that creature had mimicked the scientists' voices, answered questions with questions, toyed with Sawyer's mind the way a cat toys with an insect before killing it. And now, suddenly, silence. A patient silence. The silence of something that has already made its decision and is only waiting for the right moment. Sawyer slowly removed the headphones. He recognized that kind of stillness, because it lived inside him too. He is not waiting for a session, the doctor murmured to the empty room. He is waiting for a signal. That was when the report came in. A guard, 3 levels down, had logged strange movement in the experiment cells. Catnap, who usually curled into a corner like a shrunken shadow, was standing, motionless, staring at the wall that opened onto the central corridor, as if listening to a voice no instrument could pick up. And he was not alone. One by one, in different cells, on different floors, the experiments had taken the same posture, turned toward the same point, waiting for the same instant. In the original timeline, no one added these signs together in time. The alarm only sounded when the blood was already running down the hallways. But Sawyer was not just anyone. Sawyer was the only mind in that factory capable of thinking the way the prototype thought, because the two of them were made of the same cold material. And in that instant, with the report trembling in his hand, he understood. "It is 11 o'clock, he said, looking at the clock on the wall. He set it for 11. 4 minutes left. The doctor did not run. Men like Sawyer do not run. He walked to the containment panel, entered the maximum emergency code that only 3 people in the company knew, and pressed the button no one had ever had the nerve to press. On every floor, all at once, steel doors dropped from the ceilings with a crash that shook the entire structure. The cells sealed. The access corridors locked down. The containment gas system, the same red smoke used to put the orphans to sleep, flooded the experiment sectors with a thick, sweet haze. At 10:59, the rebellion planned over a full decade began. And it died in 60 seconds. Huggy Wuggy hurled his enormous body against the steel door of his own cell and bounced off, stunned. Mommy Longlegs stretched her impossible arms through the cracks and found only cold metal. In the train car where it was all supposed to start, Kissy Missy's straps held firm, because the invisible hand that was meant to cut them never arrived. Catnap clawed at the wall until his talons splintered, howling a lament that echoed through the ducts like an interrupted prayer. And far below, in the most reinforced cell of them all, Experiment 1006 did not move. The prototype simply watched the haze rise around his body, stitched together from stolen parts. The yellow pupil rotated slowly until it found the camera in the corner of the cell. And although he no longer had a face capable of smiling, everyone who watched that recording afterward swore he was smiling. If you have made it this far, you already understand this ending is not going to turn out well. Drop a like so this video reaches more people who love lore, and stay with me, because the darkest part has not even started yet. News of the containment climbed the company hierarchy like fire along a trail of gunpowder. Leith Pierre, head of innovation, arrived at the factory before noon. He went down to the basement, crossed the corridors still hazy with red smoke, and stopped in front of the prototype cell with his hands clasped behind his back, contemplating the creature the way a man contemplates a fortune. "Sawyer," Pierre said, without looking away, "do you have any idea what you just saved?" The doctor stood beside him, exhausted but with his eyes burning. "I saved the company," he answered. "No," said Pierre, and for the first time in years, a genuine smile crossed his face. "You proved it can be controlled. You proved they can be contained. And if they can be contained, then there is no limit to how many we can make." In that moment, the story stopped being about survival and became about scale. In the months that followed, Playtime Co. did not shut down. It grew. The Bigger Bodies initiative, which had operated in the shadows out of fear of exposure, became the beating heart of the company. Pierre presented the executives with a plan that would have horrified anyone with a soul. But to a room full of men in suits, it sounded like nothing more than profit. If a living toy was a miracle, then 1,000 living toys were an industry. And industries do not close. Industries expand. Playcare, the orphanage hidden beneath the factory, stopped being a shameful secret and became the raw material for everything. More beds, more children. Fake adoption programs spread across the entire country, gathering the forgotten, the nameless, the ones no one would ever come looking for. They arrived by bus at night, believing they had found a home. They were given a colorful room, a soft bed, toys that spoke to them in the dark. And they believed, for a while, that they had been lucky. There was a boy named Daniel, 8 years old, hair always a mess, a gap where 2 front teeth should have been. Daniel had arrived one winter and fallen in love with the colorful factory that took him in. He drew the toys on the dormitory walls, talked to Miss Delight as if she were a real teacher, and slept clutching a small plush Huggy, never knowing there was a far larger Huggy locked away somewhere beneath his feet. One night, they took Daniel for what they called a special examination. The red smoke filled the room where he slept, and the next morning, a new toy came off the production line. With eyes that seemed to recognize something, without ever quite remembering what. Multiply Daniel by 1,000, by 10,000, over the course of 10 years. Meanwhile, up above, the world applauded. Playtime Co. launched its living toys as the most revolutionary product in the history of entertainment. Parents lined up outside store doors. Children cried with joy when they received a friend that answered them, that hugged them, that seemed to feel. Giant billboards displayed the slogan that would be burned into an entire generation. A friend who never leaves you. And no one stopped to ask what it took to manufacture a friend like that. Somewhere inside that perfect machine, Poppy Playtime watched it all. She was not like the others. Poppy could see. Locked inside a glass dome in an executive office, displayed as the company's first miracle, she watched every truckload of children arrive and every new toy leave. She knew the truth behind every smile they sold, because she herself had been a little girl once. And the weight of witnessing it all, without being able to move a single finger to stop it, was a torture no laboratory would ever invent. "You turned death into an assembly line," she whispered one night, alone, her voice fogging the glass from the inside. "And you called it playing." But the most unsettling piece on that board was not on display. It was down below, in the most reinforced cell, patient as ever. Catnap never stopped worshipping. Even defeated, even contained, the faith of the boy once named Theodore did not die. It only sank into silence and waited. Through the ventilation ducts that connected the experiment cells, in a code of knocks and scratches no scientist ever managed to decipher, the contained toys kept communicating, year after year. An underground religion whispered in the dark, with a single God at its center. And that God was waiting. Because here is the truth that Sawyer, for all his brilliance, never managed to see. The prototype had not failed. Think about it. The most intelligent creature that factory ever produced, capable of orchestrating the rebellion with clockwork precision, capable of mimicking voices and manipulating minds for years. Is it possible he had not foreseen that Sawyer would press the button? Is it possible the only being who thought the way the doctor thought did not know exactly how the doctor would react? The hour of joy did not fail by accident. It failed because the prototype let it. A rebellion in 1995 would have killed a few hundred people and closed the doors. A small ending. An ending the world would forget. But a company that survives, that grows, that puts living toys in millions of homes, that multiplies the experiments until there is no longer any way to contain them all. That company does not build a factory. It builds an army, spread across every child's bedroom on the planet, waiting, in silence, for the day the god in the deepest cell finally taps out the last signal through the ducts. Sawyer thought he had won that August 8th. Pierre thought he had found a fortune. The world thought it had gained a friend who would never leave. But the prototype thought something else. He thought he had only postponed the hour of joy. And this time, when it comes, there will be no steel door large enough to contain what lives inside every toy this company never stopped making. Playtime Co. did not shut down. And that is exactly why the nightmare, instead of ending, found a way to last forever. Maybe the real horror was never the factory that died in the single morning. Maybe the real horror is the one that learned to never die.